Hooray! Well, I think we're live here, Greg. You've thrust me into the 21st century.
Yay!
Hooray, hooray. Well, thank
Yeah,
you
we're gonna go
so
kicking
much.
and screaming, right?
Kicking and screaming. Before I started my current position with Belia Interiors Group, I didn't even have a LinkedIn account. So, yay for me. I'm really doing my part for, 2020.
Yeah, and it seems like you're doing a great job, especially pushing this media for today. That's good.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Now I know how to do it. So, we can always learn new things. You can always teach an old Aunt Maddie new tricks.
Well,
So,
I didn't know which platforms at all people were using, and I actually went live with someone just last week, and so I thought, okay, there's stuff out there, and you just have to ask around, and it's there. So this is
and
great.
figure it out. And you know what? Actually, that interview was great too. That was a fantastic interview. And that was with a young bro who like knew what he was doing, but that was fantastic. And now, I'm a young girl that knows what I'm doing now.
That's
So
good.
sort of. All right, guys. Well, here we are. Welcome to COVID Convos with Maddie Carver. I'm Maddie Carver, and today I have with me live Greg Brzezinski
Hey
of
there.
Spiesel Architecture Group, formerly City Invincible in Camden, New Jersey. Hi, Greg.
Hey, Maddie, how are you? It's good to see you.
I'm doing great. How are you doing? You guys are in kind of half quarantine, half you're doing kind of a back and forth schedule. Is that right?
Yeah, at the office at Spiesel, we are doing A and B group. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 week, Tuesday, Thursday. So basically half time.
Good.
It's good. I mean, we're definitely spread out. So it's definitely feels safe. We're trying to observe all, rules, wearing masks while we're walking around the office. But we're able to have some in site meetings, which is actually good. It's actually good to actually be in the office and meeting.
And to see
Yeah, I
people.
see
That's so
people, even,
nice.
it's just, even if they're over there, there's people around.
Yeah.
I'm okay working out of my home office. So that's been fine. I actually think I'm slightly more productive in the office, but it's also
Yeah.
the printer. It's also, those in
The screens, the equipment,
everything.
the all of it.
It's
Yeah.
subtle
And
stuff. It's
just
even like
camaraderie.
the resolution on my computer screens. It's one step removed using AnyDesk. So I'm actually on my office computers from my home office, but it's not as clear. And so just those little things make, you not quite as efficient. I think
Yeah.
after 5 months, I think we've arrived, and it seems
We've
like this.
we've arrived. It's time. We
It seems
we
like
want to
this
be
one's
back
going to go
together.
on for a
And
little longer, though. So I think,
right,
yeah.
right. I mean, yeah, I guess it's one of those things that nobody really knows the answer. Nobody has the magic wand. Nobody has the absolute answer. But I have to say, the person I miss the most, especially over the weekend when I was trying to figure this out, and this morning, is my boss Anthony Belia, who's the technical guru, who could have had this done in like a split second. So Anthony, I love you and miss you. I hope you're watching. So, Greg, I have quite a lot to talk to you about. You are an interior designer, you are a social media influencer. Tell me a little bit about your background and where you grew up, and just kind of where you got to where you are today.
Okay. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, and it was, I think, understood in my parents' eyes that I was going to go to college. And so it was very important for my parents, who neither one of them finished high school, that their kids were going to go to college. And so they basically helped me fill out my applications. I was going to college. And so
That Western PA work ethic.
it
I know
was
I have
work
it
ethic,
too.
and very important to, they're people who wanted to get ahead. And my parents do, they are the American dream in terms of
Yeah.
like, they didn't come from much. They were going to make sure their kids did better than they did, and they were going to see to it. And so my mother, took a job as a cleaning lady with, after having 4 kids at home. And my dad worked in the steel mill, and it was very important that me in particular, as their son, there was a little bit of that still going on. It was important for, I have 3 sisters, for my sisters also to go to school, but my dad, wanted the Brzezinski name to stay
Sure,
strong,
sure.
and
Yeah.
having to go to college was important to that. And so I almost had no choice, even though it was my choice to go, and I did obviously want to go to college. And so I went to Penn State, and studied architecture. So you mentioned that I'm an interior designer. I'm actually a registered architect in Pennsylvania, and my specialty has been
Wow.
interiors for the bulk of my adult career.
Hmm.
But at Spiesel,
You
I'm
know, Greg,
actually.
I didn't know that about you. How did that come about? Because I mean, you're such a talented, you and Mary are just incredible. So how did that happen?
I think initially I started out at UN Cole. I was an architect at UN Cole for 5 years, and then went out on my own via doing architectural renderings. At the time, I could do watercolor and airbrush renderings of architectural projects. And Ewing Cole hired me, and on the side, as well as other firms. I worked for H2L2, I worked for Kling, a number of firms all throughout Philadelphia and in New York. I worked for Perkins and Will. I mean, a number of firms everywhere. And I was able to grow a client base of architectural renderings, and then they started producing some architectural jobs. So initially I was doing architecture, and then we just started specializing in hospitality interiors. And so kind of interiors that we were doing and that we continue to do, it's really interior architecture. I mean, we are really in charge of looking at the integrations of the systems, as well as the millwork design, as well as any FF&E in terms of furniture, fabrics, finishes, all of it. So it's pretty comprehensive, what we were doing. And we had great opportunities over the years to work for a number of high-profile interiors clients, such as the Union League or Philadelphia Country Club, Marion Cricket Club. So there's a specialty that we had in terms of doing hospitality interiors. And it's something that I've always liked because of my understanding of architecture. I was also able to do a lot of the detailing on the projects. And so it's always, I think having a knowledge in architecture has enabled me to actually be a good interior designer, because it's pretty comprehensive in my opinion. It's not just picking, wallpaper.
Yeah, let me touch on that a little bit because I have a lot of really close relationships with a lot of interior designers, and sometimes in our industry there's a little bit of a bias or there's a little bit of a misconception that interior design is somehow or somewhat easier than architecture, which you are the first person to know that that's not the truth. Can you speak to that bias a little bit and kind of dispel that misconception?
There is, I think that we're breaking that down. I think part of it is the training that interior designers are getting at school. I think early on, I think maybe initial interior design education was not what it is now. I think there's much more emphasis on detailing. There's much more emphasis on the integrations of systems. And I'm just reaching back, 30 years where it did seem it was more about fabric and finish and decorative, knowledge of, historic periods and knowledge of, color and fabric and all of that, which is important. I think coming out of school now, especially at like some place like Drexel, where I actually did a rendering
Yeah.
class for a few years. I was just seeing the students coming out in the interior design program as having a better skill set than they might have had previously. And so I think personally, I think there should be an interior architecture degree
Yeah.
that actually specializes in interior architecture. And I think, it can be interiors, it could be architecture, however you want to do it. But I think there could be a very specific degree that might want to come out of schools. Because
Right.
so much of what we do, especially even at Spiesel, working on large healthcare projects, large senior living projects, they are just so big. And there's an opportunity as an interior designer to really put a stamp on what an interior can look like. Working with, the architectural designers, working as a team, which I think is important. There should be a definite integration of what is happening in architecture, interiors, everything, from lighting design to mechanical design, all of that has to be integrated. And so I think the more we integrate teams, and I've seen that, working well at Spiesel, just in the past few months as we've been integrated into, their team, where I don't feel that the interiors is second layer. It's definitely
Yeah.
in line, which I think is important.
Well, and I was going to just add that, we have a showroom on the second floor of the same building that you all are in. And so we see each other quite a bit, and I see your team at Spiesel, and like I said, formerly City Invincible. And that is one thing that I think is really unique about you guys. I go into a lot of firms and see a lot of folks and a lot of teams, but your interiors and your architecture and everybody really works cohesively, and everybody really looks to be friends and sincerely friends. And it seems like everybody's really interested in working cohesively together. And you don't always see that.
I think it has always worked like that. We're definitely challenged now because we're not all in
Yeah,
here. And
aren't we
so
all? Right.
we're thankful that, the interiors department is here, which, I really kind of look, my previous position at City Invincible would have been called the Director of Design, which was really design incorporating architecture as well as interiors. And so I've been able to look over a number of the projects, which I still do now at Spiesel. I'm able to, even though the position title has changed, I'm still looking at other projects in the office and just making sure that we're all we want to elevate design as Spiesel.
Sure.
At Spiesel, we do a high level of design, and we want to make sure that eyes are always looking at it and giving a set of fresh eyes looking at projects. And so that's always been important at Brzezinski. It's always been important at City Invincible, and now at Spiesel, I think it's important. But going back
that.
to there's definitely everyone. Is there inefficiency in the way people work? Yes, I sense that we are continuing to work efficiently in terms of getting work done, being billable. But what's missing definitely is the one-on-one, face-to-face, and this is good. But there's something about being around a table and actually picking up that pencil or grabbing that pencil out of someone's hand.
Yeah.
Actually,
Give me that.
Let me do that. Putting ink on paper in front of someone. Yeah, we can do it on screen and everything, but I'm missing that tactile, one-to-one, face-to-face kind of interaction.
Sure.
And we'll get back there. But it can't come soon enough for me.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way. I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment with my husband, so and we have no outside area, and we moved here a couple years ago thinking, oh, we have the entire city of Philadelphia as our backyard, and here we are in quarantine in a 1-bedroom. But anyway, I digress.
Well, I'm like challenging you to go outside.
Yeah, it's like in fact, right after this is over, I got to go take a little walk and kind of get my mind right. But so Greg, I'm gonna burst a lot of bubbles here. Before anybody gets too deep into their lumberjack fantasies about you, Greg, I want to let everybody know that Greg is married to the beautiful, beautiful Mary Brzezinski, and the two of them do the interior design at Spiesel Architecture Group. So I want to know, how did you meet Mary, and how did that come about that you're partners in life, partners in business, partners in your social media extravaganza, the whole thing?
Let's see. I met Mary actually from a good friend of mine who actually dated her boss, who at the time was Floss Barber. So like one of my best buddies went on a date with Floss, and they were talking business, and because they were both entrepreneurs and both had small businesses of their own. And my friend Steven was ever the salesperson. He says, I have the perfect person who can do consulting work for you and who should be doing your renderings. And so I had just been freshly out on my own working. And he hooked me up with FBI Incorporated at the time, Floss Barber Incorporated. And I was able to do some architectural renderings. And so I remember very clearly going into the office the very first day, and this very bubbly redhead, big Jersey-haired redheaded girl answered the door, and it was Mary. And I thought she was an intern, and I thought she was young and younger than she turned out to be. But I ended up doing a lot of consulting work for that office, and they ended up inviting me to their holiday party, which was legendary at the time. So they have this fantastic holiday party. And I remember going to the party, and I walked in, and Mary was dressed not as, like a Jersey
office lady, yeah,
but as a sophisticated woman. And I was like, wow, interesting. And so we talked, And over time, I remember I needed some drawings couriered to my office on a Friday, and I was expecting a bicycle messenger, and the doorbell rings, and it's actually Mary with the drawings. So she took the big first step, and we actually, talked that night, and we started dating, a few weeks later, and we got married within about a year. So.
Oh, I love that. That's such a great story. What a fun story. And then you have two beautiful children. You have a daughter in college. You have a son out of college who's out in the working world.
No, he's not. He's still finishing school.
Oh, he's still finishing. Oh, okay. I'm not going to hurry things up too much there for you, Greg. Sorry about
No,
that.
we can hurry him up. It's okay. Actually, he's doing fine. He changed his major. My son's out in Arizona, and my daughter's at Ohio State, and they're both doing pretty well at school. Mary and I have been married for 28 years.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
it'll be 28 years in 2 weeks. So we're thankful for that. And we've lived in the same house that we bought when we got married in West Philadelphia, University City. And we've been very fortunate that I think we're blessed to live so close to Center City and also in a quiet neighborhood, and to be able to have our kids grow up as urban kids. They also
Yeah.
appreciate urban things. They love food. They love, travel. They love museums, and love being in the bustle of a city. And it was actually one of the reasons my daughter chose Ohio, is so she could be near Columbus, which has a great, social.
I love Columbus.
Yeah,
Columbus is
especially High
awesome.
Street, and it's definitely alive. And she honed into that. She did not like Penn State, my alma mater, because it was sleepy to her. She wanted to
Happy
be.
Valley.
She couldn't be swayed. And so
Couldn't
Ohio
be
State
swayed.
had the football that she wanted. It had the big school experience that she wanted. It had the program she needed, as well as being close to a city. And so it was a perfect fit for her.
Well, that's great. That kind of brings me to your social media presence. You've got over 240,000 Instagram followers. That is astounding. And your family is a big part of that. Your incredible look is a big part. All my girlfriends, I've been kind of promoting our little interview here, and a lot of my girlfriends that aren't in the industry, that don't know what I do day to day, they said, "You work with this guy? Who is this man?" I said, whoa, cool your heels. He's married, but it's very interesting. You post things that are so interesting, and talk about trying to understand technology. You really have a grasp of what's now, what's next, keeping people's attention. Your family's a big part of it, but tell me a little bit about all of that and how that came about, and what your day to day is with maintaining such a huge fellowship.
Social media. I've talked about it before. I got on social media to monitor my teenage children, and they, to their chagrin, I started getting followers very quick, and a lot of it had to do with facial hair. I had a big handlebar mustache, and I got followers, and so and that's going about 6 years ago, and so just in the past 6 years, I've grown a following base. A lot of it does have to do with my, beard. I actually represent a company called Beard Brand, so plug.
Sure.
And so, but a lot of people follow, the facial hair, and that's across the board, men and women. That's demographic that goes.
I'm a fan. I love it.
That goes from teenager up to 60, but the bulk of my following is probably, what's considered the sweet spot, 24 to 40, and so, and so there's a lot of people who are just interested in what I say and talk about in terms of facial hair, but also I've always tried to encourage people on social media to be the best you possible, and to use your skill set to the best of your ability. So whether you're an architect and you're using your skill set for design purposes, do it to the best that you can, and so if you are, working with facial hair, do that to the best that you can, and figure out how it fits into your timeline, so how much time you spend on doing your stuff, it's really up to you. But I try to encourage guys, guys with facial hair to really be rocking what you have, be proud of it, and do it to the best of your ability. So because of that, I think there's a message of, I don't intentionally try to be positive and like preachy about like, you go girl kind of stuff, but I think it comes off as encouraging to a lot of people.
It
And
certainly is, and I love the emphasis on manscaping. I show your account to my husband a lot, and I say, this man can maintain this. You can maintain your situation too. Come on, let's
no,
put in a
no
little
pressure, no
effort,
pressure. A beard,
a little
especially a short
elbow
beard,
grease.
it's pretty easy to maintain a short beard. When your beard is this long or longer, there's a little maintenance required to it. But it's in direct proportion to how often you want to style it and all that. And so I make a lot of
Yeah.
videos on YouTube where I actually talk about that. We have a channel for Beard Brand where I give tutorials on hair and grooming, and we're branching out and getting into style and just culture in general. So part of the like cohesive, like everything. So like I mentioned before, work is one aspect of your life, your relationships are another aspect, your visuals another aspect, and integrating all of those things and trying to, as I said before, presenting the best foot forward. And if I can encourage anyone, to feel more confident about, say what they look like, it's going to help you in relationships. It's going to help you in your workplace. And it's not like you're, like driven by what you look like and thinking about it all the time.
But it's a best foot forward situation.
Yeah, but if you don't have to think about it because you left the house looking good, feeling good,
Looking
then
fly.
it's done, So it's just like getting comfortable with that and being able to just say, hey, I feel confident, and it's not like, hey, I'm a good looking person, but like I'm a confident guy.
There's confidence. I think confidence is very important. And I think, seeing someone like you that loves his family so very much, is a hard worker, is somebody who's, worked hard from where he's come from. And I don't get a sense from your social media that it's any type of boasting or anything like that. I think it's very inspirational. It's very aspirational. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I also think, especially when I was just talking about my husband, I think it's okay for men to realize that it's okay to care about your appearance, that it's okay to be interested in fashion, that it's okay to be interested in products, I think those things, I know a lot of women love those things because I do. I love products. I love manicures and pedicures. But it's like, so we have these gender roles where like, oh, that's okay for women to like that, but maybe it's not so much okay for men. And I think we focus too much on labeling and roles. I think you make it okay.
Well, I think there's always been an aspect of that. It's like the unspoken, you're not allowed to talk about your appearance or, spend time, because historically women have always spent more time and it's been acceptable. Men historically have spent less time, and that's what's considered acceptable. But in reality, I think I'm thinking of my dad, when he came of age in the, say the 60s, being a 30 something back then. I know that he cared about what he looked like. That's why the man got a haircut every 2 weeks. That's why he shaved, once or twice a day to look good.
It shows respect.
That's why he wore cologne. And it's just like, but he was a low maintenance guy, but even low maintenance guys care about what they look like. Whether they choose to put it on social media is another thing. But I think most men, when challenged, will admit that they care what they appear, whether it be for their wife, whether it be just, in the workplace. There's some just statistics, people who are polished, and we're not even talking about looks here. We're talking about guys who present themselves with a good haircut or a trimmed beard or clean fingernails or polished shoes or pressed shirts, like basic stuff, are the guys who are slightly elevated and are, it's not going to be a hamper. It's not going to hamper anyone from saying, I don't want that guy working here. Look how wrinkled his shirt is, because people look at that stuff, see that stuff. And
that's something that there was a webinar that I attended a few months ago, and it was talking to grads, and it was talking to folks in the design industry that are trying to now get a job at a time like this. And there was, I think it was Heather from Muharrem. I don't know if she's watching, but she was saying that, you know, one of the big things is presenting yourself in a polished manner, dressing for the job that you want, and kind of like having that confidence and having that self-esteem to say, hey, you know what, I look good. I put some effort into what I'm wearing, and I'm ready to get in there and show them what I can do. Because unfortunately, if you look like you don't care, then your prospective employer is going to think that you don't care.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's a fantastic message. And I for everybody who doesn't know, if you're on Instagram, definitely go to @Berzinski and follow Greg.
Where you're
So
going to see an awful lot of pictures of me, you know. So I actually put a lot of my family in stories, and so like, and I think that's where a lot of people get the message about the relationship I have with friends and families, are, you know, my stories a lot of times. I mean,
well,
you know,
I think it's a treat. Anybody that wants to see a treat and see some guys with some bushy beards, I love it. I love to look at your Instagram. Um, so you know what, Greg, I'm going to ask you this, and you know, this is kind of an interesting topic, but how do you think social media has affected our industry, the A&D community? And how do you think it will continue to, you know, with the pandemic and you know, going forward?
I just think about, you know, social media. I mean, there's lots of research that's been done. I mean, you can go to Huffington Post, you can go to anywhere online and look at the impact that social media has had on firms or businesses or people, or from a marketing standpoint. It is the way that people market now. So if I am marketing beard products, if I'm representing a suit company, if I'm representing like an artist, you know, it's really being done on social media. And so I think firms, architecture firms, interiors firms, product firms, furniture dealers have an opportunity to really be showing their selves, and it gives you an opportunity. It's one thing to show your work; it's another thing to show the type of firm that you are, the type
Mm-hmm.
of culture that you have.
Culture.
You know, it's all about culture, I think, and so that's part of like any, you know, you talk about what is your brand, and your brand is, yeah, we do great work, but we're also people. You know, we're a group of 100 people, say it's Feasel, and what does that look like in terms of, let's say, non-COVID, but what does that look like in terms of a culture? Gives you an opportunity to speak to the people that you might want to come to work for you. And it's just another platform that we have to show what we do to the best of our ability. And so I'm definitely a proponent of social media. I think, you know, it's not going to get smaller. The platforms might change, you know, like it might shift over, you know, Twitter might become heavy, Facebook might become heavy,
Something else. Yeah.
you know, TikTok or whatever it is, you know, it's just, those might change. But I think the aspect of people showing who they are, showing what they do, showing the type of work that they do, is definitely going to be seen through the eyes of social media. And it's so easy to share. I mean, people send me links all the time. Check out this account. And I look at the accounts, you know, some of the accounts that I follow. I follow other architects, designers, photographers, you know, there's their social media. And I'm, you know, at lunchtime, I spend the majority of my lunch hour, you know, doing social media. And, you know, I'm always sending links of, you know, check out this account, check out this design, look at this garden design, look at the color of this cabinet, you know, look at this furniture grouping, look at this architectural photographer. And so it's a good way to get other people, it gives a snapshot of what you do also. And it's a pretty good snapshot. If you look at the first 9 to 12 photographs on anyone's social media account, it gives you an idea of what their feed is about, what, you know, what their message is. You know, so for me, you know, you look at my social media account, it's obviously I'm pushing male grooming. You know, that's really what it is. But you know, if you look at an architecture firm, you know, are people featured on the account, or is it just architecture? Is it, you know, so it's important that we look at the way our social media accounts are portrayed, and you know, the message that they're sending, because it's here to stay.
It's the window to the soul of your company or to your organization or to yourself.
Yeah, you got a lot to say, I mean, in those posts, and you have to say it quickly, so having engaging photographs, key. The key to success in social media is definitely having photographs that are engaging. If the photograph doesn't engage you, you're not going to get anyone to slow down long enough to read your tagline, let alone read your caption. So you have to make sure that the photographs are engaging to the point where people want to slow down and that they actually will end up reading something. I follow some accounts that are, I follow dad jokes, for example, I'm stopping, I'm reading the dad joke, but I follow accounts where it's definitely a paragraph of information, but I follow it in particular because I want to read that. It's almost like a Twitter account on Instagram. But, having that first impact of what you're showing, making sure that people slow down long enough to read what you want them to read also. Because there's a visual aspect to most social media, but then, Instagram is mostly visual, but there is a written component to that also. So the longer you can get people to stop and see your post, more likely they are to read it. And the more likely they are to share it, the more likely Instagram thinks that other people might want to see this. The longer you linger on a post, even without liking it, that sends a message to Instagram that this is important or that people like this. So the longer you can get people to stay on your individual photographs, whether they like it or not is irrelevant. It's an important thing to do on social media.
Wow. Well, I hope everybody's really listening up. That was some really, really good advice. And a lot of firms are paid a lot of money to hear what you just said there.
You can
So,
take my course will be a lot,
yeah, right. You can www.gb.com. So listen, Greg, we've come to the most important part of my COVID convos, and that is to ask you what shows you are Netflixing and chilling to, what books you might be reading, and what song or music you can suggest for my quarantine playlist.
Not so much a Netflix person. I am totally, we have smart TV and I watch YouTube. And I'm not watching, I watch Beard Brand videos, yes, but I'm totally into Fake or Fortune right now, which is a BBC show about
What is it called?
Fake or Fortune.
Fake or Fortune.
It's probably, I think, there's probably about 10 seasons worth of it, and they probably go back to the late aughts to the mid-teens, where they call them sleepers, like finding a painting that has a story. So whether there's no provenance and them proving what the painting is, or there's another painting under the painting, find it fascinating from investigative reporting as well as from an art scene. I'm really into that. I really got into watching crime exposés. I can't think of the woman's name right now, but I watched all about the Manson family. I watched
like Squeaky Fromm and the beautiful actress that was killed, and yeah.
I'm so totally into that. I can get into watching skiing videos. Like I watch EDM concerts. So watching Tomorrowland concerts. So hearing the music, watching the concert.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like I have a very eclectic, because I'm watching, a historic football game, and then I will watch a runway fashion show. So it's just like.
Well, that's why you have 240,000 Instagram followers, Greg, because you are a very interesting man.
Yeah, try to grab a little bit. That's my head also. I'm interested in an awful lot of stuff. I think life is interesting and fun, and that to be looking at architecture, I'm very thankful that I can have a visual acuity to see stuff, which I've been always thankful for. So like seeing architecture, seeing patterns in the sky, seeing prints where you're not supposed to see them, I look for that. I don't even look for that stuff. I see that stuff. And so it makes life interesting visually.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Just like I love looking at architecture, and not so much from hey, that was done by, X architect in this year, but love seeing people's compositions and the way buildings fit into the streetscape. like walking down Chestnut or Market Street. You know, there was a great tour, and I always thought it should be called Look Up Chestnut Street. So you see the streetscape from the first floor, which are constantly renovated, renovated, renovated. But usually second, third, fourth floors of buildings are what they were, whether it be 1890 through 1940, 1950. And so you see the original architecture. So just like seeing the contrast to what people do in renovation compared to what the original building looked like. I look at that stuff, I see that stuff. And so my head is always bombarded by this visual stuff.
We're lucky to live here because Philadelphia is chock full of architectural marvels.
Yeah.
And it's incredible.
And it's the walkable city. It is the most walkable city that, like you can walk river to river from Vine Street to South Street and just look through different neighborhoods and just see different architecture. And it's just, I think it's fascinating. I think Philadelphia, I'm a little biased. I've lived here for such a long time, but, travel enough to go to other cities, and I won't mention them, but I think Philadelphia just comes up high consistently, even from people who come to visit us. They're like, wow, you've got great food, you have shopping in the city, you can walk.
It's fabulous.
Your trolley system works, it's just.
Yeah. Well, I spent many years in New York City. I spent about 12 years in New York City, and then I'm from Pittsburgh originally. So I moved to New York City from Pittsburgh. I moved back to Pittsburgh, and then we moved here for my husband's job in Philly. And what I love about Philly is it's such a great kind of compromise between Pittsburgh. It's not the sleepiness of Pittsburgh. I'm sorry, Pittsburgh, I love you. But it's also not the expense and insanity and the blood pressure up in your nose of New York City. So
it's a manageable size. I hate to say it, but I just watched on YouTube the 10 worst cities in Pennsylvania, and I'm like, please don't mention Philadelphia, and they didn't, but they did mention someplace else.
Oh no! Go Steelers! Sorry. Okay. Well, Greg, listen, I just want to tell you, this has been such a treat. I want to thank you for all of your patience with me through all my technical craziness. And I want to thank you for helping me to understand about Facebook Live. And I just want to thank you for all of your wisdom and your great inspiring things that you had to say today and sharing your life with us on Instagram. And just, I want to say thank you.
You're welcome. I've had a great time talking with you. And I think you're doing a great job with, introducing designers actually to the public and broad. So I've enjoyed watching some of your videos. And so it's great.
Well, thank you so much, Greg. And I'll see you soon at Spiesel Architecture Group in Camden.
Yeah, can't wait. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, Greg. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.